First is arithmetic, which is kind of the biggest, part of CAD. I would say if anyone has to start their preparation from today, let's say today is the day one, they should start with arithmetic and get their command in that. And the bulk of the time, which most of the people don't do, they just look at key what marks I have got in this particular mock and then leave it at that point of time. So it is to revise your unattempted and incorrect questions and solutions. Revise solutions also for your correct questions also. I would recommend that because maybe the solution is better than what process you followed. And if you can sort of imitate that solution, that would be really great because it will save time for you. Basically, during the exam, mostly the questions would be divided in terms of difficulty, would be divided in a way that there would be low hanging fruits, which would take hardly 1 to 2 minutes per question, and this would be 8 to 10. So out of 22, 8 to 10 questions will be very low hanging fruit, and this comes with practice only to identify that this is a very simple question. Some you will get to know that the information is very less, and the concept is very familiar. So these are very low hanging fruits. So this will get you to 80 percentile. Even if you get these 8 to 10 right, easily 80 percentile out only by attempting these questions, even if you leave the other part. Then is separate from the crowd. So basically, these are questions which will separate you from the other crowd, which generally lies in. So any serious preparation candidate is there, they will most likely be in this particular range. So to separate it out from any candidate who is decent enough in maths, you need to complete these questions which separates you from the ground, and these would take around 2 to 3 minutes per question. And within this region, the pitholes questions come because they look at this is a very simple speed time distance question. Why am I not able to solve? So that's why and remember it's a speed test. It's not a skill test. More of the concepts everybody knows, the concepts that are being implemented. Everybody knows the formulas. Everybody knows method, but it's more of strategizing to pick up the questions which feed you more. So even if the person who did 16 difficult questions and there was a person who did the 16 easy questions out of those 22, more or less the percentile would be same. Apart from a little bit difference, maybe due to normalization, very little bit difference. What is 100 percentile? First of all, you should understand what exactly is 100 percentile. It is mainly that you are in the 0.01% of the candidates. So what does that mean? That anyone who is securing a percentile which is above 99.99% would eventually be, rounded off to 100 percentile because they do not give approximation in percentiles above that. So what is percentile? Percentile is basically, let's say if you have X percentile, you are better than X percent of people that sat for the exam. So 2.2 lakhs test takers, if there are, I am taking this data of last year. So 0.01% would be 0.01% would be people who would get 100 percentile because so it would be around 22 people who will get 100 percentile. And it's not that 100 percentile is something you need to get, but it is something you must aim for so that even if you are in a range of 100 percentile, and if you're prepared for 100 percentile, then eventually you will get very good marks. So what it helps in compensate hiccups in other sections. So if you have a weaker section, let's say DILR or verbal, it will help you compensate for that in your overall percentile, which is a very key thing, which I think a lot of students aim for when they have a weak section. Although I would recommend to make your weaker sections work on a weaker section, but still, if that is the case during the D-Day also, that helps. Second is morale booster, which is basically your own ego boost that you can boast upon that, this section I was able to get 100 percentile, which is like top at the top of the country. And third is brownie points in interview. So even if sometimes in interview, the interviewers notice that you have any sectional percentile of 100, that is always taken as a, a positive for those people, even if your overall is less. But if you are in the interview and you have one section this much grade, it's always become a point of conversation and would start off with a very positive sort of impression of from your perspective. So there are five key things. First is thorough preparation, which is basically browsing, learning of the concepts. Second is practice, 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 which is you will have to own the your concept which you have learned through solving multiple questions at multiple stages of this practice time that you have till CAT. Third is targeted plan. So what you have to do is you have to create a plan that how you are focusing on your strength areas, how you are focusing on your areas which are okay, and how you are focusing on areas which are weak. So let's say something which is you think is very difficult for you to understand, or it's always time taking to do those particular questions. So you will have to also leave them that you are not focusing on everything. You do not need to cover 100% of the syllabus to get 100 percentile. And this is a very true fact that you do not need to get 100% of the questions right or 100% of the topics, command 100% of the topics to get 100 percentile. Now, avoid the ostentatious. So these are the things that you should avoid doing also. Every question is not meant to be solved. Every topic is not meant to be excellent at. It's about keeping a balance so that you can, and then just, striving for the extra mile to get 100 percentile. And then the mocks. So this should ideally come under practice, but still I have kept mocks because it builds rhythm for you. Because you should be in the rhythm of exam even before the exams. So they help set the rhythm of your body, the rhythm of your attempting any exam, all those things. So we'll go them in details also. So let's see. So topics. So these are the four key topics that we will encounter. First is arithmetic, which is kind of the biggest, part of CAD. I would say if anyone has to start their preparation from today, let's say today is the day one, they should start with arithmetic and get their command in that. And I think in most of the 100 percentilers, you will see this topic would never be the one which would have been lacking. So most of the time, I think 95% of the time, you would need command in arithmetic. And mostly the concepts which you learn in arithmetic are implementable sort of in others also. Because it is like time and work, time, speed and distances. These kinds of problems are very generic, and the concept by which you solve these problems are implemented easily in others. So they are sort of they form a calculation base or a logic base for other types of problems as well. And eventually which kind of expands to DILR as well. Second is algebra, which is you have to practice factorizations, you have to practice equations, you have to know how to, expand the cube, how to understand an expanded expression and how could you make factors out of it. So these sort of tricks also processes that you have to learn in algebra so that you are able to solve questions where any variable can be assumed. You do not know the exact value and you have to move through those variables at last so that you can get the eventual answer. And if you are only comfortable in moving by taking values, that means if there are numbers given, then only you can calculate. If there are variables given, you can't. Then you might be lacking on something. So at least algebra should be decent for you. Third is geometry, where I think a lot of people are really afraid of tackling questions where any sort of diagrams or logics are given. I think this is the concept this is the part where you need to build on some bit of formulas also. that what are the common properties of triangles, quadrilaterals, circles, and all those things, and then try to practice as many questions as possible. So if you will reach that particular number threshold, you will get to the point where you would be able to sort of remind yourself that yeah, I have done this type of question, so the approach should be this. Because in geometry there is never a fixed approach which you can be given in arithmetic, algebra, or any other thing, but there is no set approach. Maybe you will have to see the triangle first before the tangent, before the line, before the center, before the radius. Maybe you will have to see the radius first. Maybe you will have to see the some trigonometric angle first. So that can happen, and that only comes with practice. And fourth is numbers, where basically you are mastering squares, cubes, square roots, logs of numbers, which are very commonly used, so that you do not face time in calculating, cubes and squares of numbers. So you should know cubes till like 20 and all, 1 to 20 you should know. Squares, I think you should be able to calculate really quickly, and at least you should know till 2025, you should know all the square number. Because most of the questions they will be used. Let's say compound interest questions, squares you will always be used for 1.1 square, what is 1.2 square, because in compound interest questions, this term is very frequently added. So you should know those. Then there is everything else, which is, very miscellaneous types of questions that can come, and which includes other strategies as well, that focusing on your calculations, focusing on building tricks and all. But tricks should always be built after you have built the concept. So there can be three strategies based on where you are to decide on what topics to focus on. So the first would be, the pro strategy is basically excel in four of these. At least four of these you need to excel. But that is a pro strategy that is for people who have already at a good level and past background is of quant and maths. That you should excel in at least four of these five things that we have. Second can be a challenger strategy, who mostly disrupt during the CAT day, because people who are in this league one, they are always afraid of, performing bad and all that. But the league two is always someone who is aiming to get to the best, but they are not yet there. So they're decent at grasping concepts, but they need practice. So what they need to do is at least be good at three of these five sections and defend two. So by defend two, I mean that you do not need to leave all the questions for the topics which you are not good at. You need to at least have a very basic you can say attempt rate in other two topics as well. And in strategy three, which the underdogs do, is like, I think arithmetic, geometry they go for, and they excel those two and defend the other threes. And also, even if you are defending, by defending I mean attempting like 40 to 50% questions of the sections, so that you do not lose marks in wrong questions in your weaker sections, and also you are able to excel in other two topics. So most of the time, I think the top two sections would be arithmetic, geometry, arithmetic, algebra. These sort of topics should be your top two topics where you need to excel. So this is the underdog strategy, where you have started preparation only recently. There are first timers who are giving CAT for the first time, or maybe even acquainted with quant topics for the first time. So you need to analyze which bucket you fall in and try to prepare like that. And you don't need to excel every subtopic, all those things that don't need to be done. Try to find your strengths, but even if your strengths are very less, then you need to increase the strengths that you. The second part is of the practice. So let's say if you're giving, let's say 1 to 2 hours to quant daily, and that I would definitely recommend, rather than practicing it for 5 hours just once or twice a week. It is better to give 1 to 2 hours daily. So Your time should be divided in 5, 15, 35, 45. So 5% in planning what you are going to do, right? So approximately you can say 6 to 7 minutes you will spend here. Then 15% in learning new concepts. And gradually what will happen is during the preparation, this percentages can change because eventually you would have learned most of the content, but still there are some things that you can learn new also. So 15% of your time should be spent in learning concepts. 35% should be in solving the actual questions, and try to do it real time. Try to time yourself. Not initially, but mostly try to time yourself that how much time did it take to solve any particular question, mock, section. And the bulk of the time, which most of the people don't do, they just look at key what marks I have got in this particular mock and then leave it at that point of time. So it is to revise your unattempted and incorrect questions and solutions. Revise solutions also for your correct questions also. I would recommend that because maybe the solution is better than what process you followed, and if you can sort of imitate that solution, that would be really great because it will save time for you. So even if you have done the question, but you took 3 minutes, and that could have been done in 1 minute, 2 minutes, or what. So this is the biggest part because revision will sort of reaffirm any formulas, any tricks, any logics in your head, and obviously whatever you don't know up till now, you will get to know how it can be solved in a better. So try to focus. This is just a rough recommendation. This can maybe little bit change for you, but you understood what are the key focus areas that you. So in terms of a targeted plan, have a target in your mind that with when would you complete all these topics, how much, and based on your uh, um, based on your strengths as decided, you can focus how many days I need to give to every topic and how much excel I want to do in every topic based on your comfort level, and try to discuss it with others also. So follow structured plan. That means to be consistent, basically, not to have a very sporadic plan that 1 week you are doing so much in preparation and the other week not. Instead, try to balance it till the time you have can. Obviously, there would be energy levels that would fluctuate, but still you should have a very balanced plan till the time you are sitting for the exam. Do not rely solely on shortcuts. Why I would say that? Because without understanding the concept, shortcut is nothing. Shortcut only works if you understand the concept behind how the shortcut was implemented. So try to learn the actual concept first, understand the concept, and then go to shortcut. Because it's you can say a tricky tool. When shortcut used without understanding the concept, it can lead to, wrong attempts and negative marking, all those things. And always take time mock test. Don't take mock test so that I want to solve these 30, even if you are at a beginner level now, because you will know that which area you are lacking upon. Actually, you are lacking upon the skill. Secondly, you are lacking upon your time management. You are lacking upon calculations during your exam. So you would know exactly where you are losing out on in the marks if you give time marks. Otherwise, you will be very happy that I did 25 out of whatever, 20 out of 22 questions, but that would not be an effective sort of reflection of what your performance or what your level is. So basically, during the exam, mostly the questions would be divided in terms of difficulty, would be divided in a way that there would be low hanging fruits, which would take hardly 1 to 2 minutes per question, and this would be 8 to 10. So out of 22, 8 to 10 questions will be very low hanging fruit. So at least my strategy was to kind of complete these questions at one go, and so these are marks that are up for grabs, and you can go and get them because these are very simple. And this comes with practice only to identify that, this is a very simple question. Some you will get to know that the information is very less and the concept is very familiar. So these are very low hanging fruits. So this will get you to 80 percentile. Even if you get these 8 to 10 right, easily 80 percentile out only by attempting these questions, even if you leave the other part. Then is separate from the crowd. So basically, these are questions which would separate you from the other crowd, which generally lies in. So any serious uh, preparation candidate is there, they will most likely be in this particular range. So to separate it out from any candidate who is decent enough in maths, you need to complete these questions which separates you from the ground, and these would take around 2 to 3 minutes per question, and this would be around 6 to 8 questions in your exam. So seconds on the second go, target these sort of questions. So this will easily get you to 90 percentile. If you get around 13, 14 correct question, easily you will get to 99 percentile, which is a very good percentile to have in a particular section. But to get to that, the magic number, which is 100 percentile, there are two things that are there, but you don't need to get everything correct, but at least you should hit at least these two spots. First thing is you have to avoid, the pit holes till last, which are questions which are meant to, exhaust or use your time, and which will affect your performance in other sections also, that you would not be able to, attempt low hanging fruits or the separate from the crowd questions for you, and it will, sort of kill your time if you attempted them early in your, the time that you have allotted for the exam. You started with them. So to avoid pit holes and to attempt game changers at least at the end, at least one or two game changers at the end would be, your last nail in the coffin to get 100%. And I have written these that these are the number of questions that you will get in this section, not that you will have to attempt these many questions in all these sections. Some of the questions can be left. Obviously, the attempt rate should be decreasing as you go from left to right. So here also there can be three strategies. It totally depends upon how you are doing in practice, how much is your accuracy. People like me always used to do, very silly mistakes, and also I always knew that my accuracy, even if I solve all the questions, would be around 95%, because I would have done some calculations wrong. I know that it was really unavoidable for me. So here, first strategy is if you know your calculation game, if you know that game, so around 16 correct questions will, I think, can get you easily to 100 percentile, but your accuracy should be close to 100. And then there is strategy 2 for people like me, where I want to attend at least 18 or 18 plus questions out of 22, and with 95% accuracy, I can get to 100 percentile. And the third would be, if you know that you are having half-hearted guesses or maybe intelligent guesses also, then you need to attempt out 20 out of 22, because there are a lot of folks that have, a very good knowledge base as well as very good practice. So to be at their level, you need to, with a, dwindling accuracy of 90%, you need to work 20. So always focus, I would say always focus on accuracy rather than attempt, because attempt, unless you're conceptually very strong, your half-hearted guesses would be wrong, your intelligent guesses will also be wrong. So try to do as accurate as possible. Focus always accuracy over attempts, over speed, but speed needs to be there. But don't get bogged down that you have only attempted, 15 questions, 14 questions correctly, and you will not able to attempt. So don't guess, because 14, 15 will easily get you to 99. That is the bare minimum that you get. Maybe you will get a good 99. But also depends on the, the difficulty of the paper. But roughly, I am telling you in terms of if a very moderate or a conventional paper. Yeah. So next is, what things do you need to avoid? First is as I earlier said, that do not waste time in studying every topic. You can leave some topics, the tail you can leave. But there are some key topics that you should not lose out if you are aiming for 100 percentile, obviously. And if, but yeah, the priority should always be there. Random questions without focus practice do not solve. So there is a habit of people, sharing random questions which are maybe little bit in the scope of CAT, but just for fun, sharing each other and then sharing tricks and tips. But don't fall into that prey. So try to stick to basics. Try to stick to syllabus also. Don't just do things for the fun. Whoever is enjoying on these questions and who are having fun for these questions have already prepared the base. Then they are going to that level and having fun with those questions. So there is a time to go to that questions. Do not randomly go and solve around any questions which does not pertain to the level or the topics which CAT entails. Leave your ego behind. This is a very big problem that people start one question after 2-3 minutes. Let's say they are not able to solve it. They just start doing it anyways, just because their ego says that this topic I am really good at. Even if the topic you excel, you have spent like 2 to 3 minutes and you did not get an answer. Don't worry, leave it, because if you will try to spend more and more time, it will create pressure and eventually you will lose out on 2 or 3 other questions because of just this one question. And within this region, the pitholes questions come because they look at, this is a very simple speed time distance question. Why am I not able to solve? So that's why and remember, it's a speed test. It's not a skill test. More of the concepts, everybody knows the concepts that are being implemented. Everybody knows the formulas. Everybody knows method, but it's more of strategizing to pick up the, questions which feed you more. So even if the person who did 16 difficult questions and there was a person who did the 16 easy questions out of those 22, more or less the percentile would be same. Apart from a little bit difference, maybe due to normalization, very little bit difference. Next is do not postpone mocks towards the end. So always, if you are enrolled in any mock, try to give it on the first day, on the first slot, or maybe first day, second slot. Because what happens is, most of the time, due to social media, the information is out. What types of questions you are expecting? Some people leak out questions as well. So do not indulge in them and try to give it earlier so that you are prepared for the worst. Even if your cash slot is first, then you would not know what the level can be. So that's why always give as early as possible and do not postpone it till last. Obviously, do not cheat in mocks because some people try to boost their ego by copying 1 or 2 questions and they're getting very good marks. So they are hailed upon at every social platform that there is. So don't do that, because that is not going to help you eventually. Maybe short-term happiness you will get, but eventually it is not going to help. And I believe the stories which are getting from 50 percentile to whatever 99 percentile, 100 percentile are are better, looks better to me than stories which are we were at 99 and we are at 99. So even if you're scoring less now, it's not that big a deal. Obviously, don't guess. That's what I said. Don't guess, but there are intelligent guesses, half-hearted guesses. But don't guess, randomly that I'll put P into. Unless it's the case that out of 22, you have only been able to solve 5 to 6 questions, and that, whatever I'm aiming for I would not get in any case. Then only if you want to, go with the God. But even if you have decent attempts, like 10 plus attempts, and you know that these are all correct, don't need to guess. You can compensate with other sections also. So let me just give you a question and try to solve this and give me the answer. I'm looking at the chat box. And this is a simple compound interest question. And if anybody does not know the formula, they can ask, which is basically principal into 1 plus rate upon 100 into the time period. Yes, the answer is correct. So I'm just asking the one who did it, in the quickest way to write down how he did it. Just write down your approach. Maybe in words you can also write. Okay, you did this. So the fastest person was able to do it in less than a minute, almost a minute, using this formula. So that he has used compound interest formula, which is basically principal into 1 plus rate upon 100 into time period. So this is simple compound interest formula. But what if I tell you that once you get to practice, this question is maximum of 4 to 5 seconds, because uh, you will need to see sometimes hidden, sort of identifiers in the question, which makes it really easy to crack the question even without doing anything. So you can see that if 96,000 was the sum, so this is a multiple of 3, and this would be multiplied by whatever interest rate is there. So only one option is a multiple of 3, and you know how to find multiple of 3, which is adding all the numbers, and if that number is a multiple of, so this adds up to 15, this adds up to I think 16, this adds up to 17, and this adds up to 19. So this 146004 would be the answer, because 96,000 is multiplied with something, and 96,000 is a multiple of 3. So the solution has to be a multiple of 3 in any case, if it is an integer. If it was fraction, then also if it's a perfect fraction, it should, the digit should add up to it. So these kinds of tricks are there, which are not very easy to spot, and it is very normal to go to formulas when you see these types of questions. But sometimes the options can solve it for you, and sometimes some smaller or tricks can help you, get to the answer very quickly. So Jyotikashri, it's not about it's a multiple of 3. This is one type of trick. It can be any other. When it's not a multiple of 3, obviously you will have to solve. I'm saying with practice, you will get to know that, can this question be something trick? And this can be a multiple of 7. This can be, somewhere around there was a 5 there. And so there is a question in, sort of where multiples of 5 and 2, that question would have a 0 at the end. These sorts of things are there that could help. So I would need to build all the tricks if you want to know all of them, which I used to use. But you can build tricks of your own as well. And whoever will, teach you in detail should also tell you some tricks that they are going to use. But these are not very, what should I say, standardized. So everybody builds their own tricks. So mostly these tricks I am able to use. Even in terms of, let's say, remainder, that eventually whatever will be the answer, the remainder of it would be 2. Maybe the last digit would be 2. These sorts of trick you will know only by practice. Let's say if there's a question where A into B into C is there, and you know that A is a multiple of 3 and B is a multiple of 2, and you need to find out A into B into whatever X, Y, Z, Z, and then eventually you see only one answer is a multiple of 6. Then you know that that option can be the only answer, thus cannot be. But this will come with practice. And there are at least, I will tell you, at least 3 to 4 questions which can be done by identifying the trick. The trick may not be that simple, but 3 to 4 questions are easily done just by looking at the option. So conclusion is basically to stay up in practice and structure your strategy, and you need only consistency. If you are following this consistently over the time till CAT, you will definitely succeed. Even if not 100 percentile, you will get a very good percentile, which is okay. But I would always recommend to, focus for the, to get the best. And yes, and take care of your health also, because it depends. If you are not feeling very well and in a not very right state of mind, you will not do good in CAT, because it definitely affects your physical, your mental health state at that point of time also. So try to stay healthy and focused. And yeah, best of luck to all of you.